Today I'll provide an audio description of an artwork called Seated Woman by the artist Alexej von Jawlensky. Alexej was a Russian painter who was born sometime between 1864 and 1867 and died in 1941. He was known for painting people, objects, and landscapes in a bold way. Instead of choosing colors, lines, and proportions that seemed normal or realistic, Alexej would rely on instincts, moods, and beliefs to guide him as he painted. This approach led to portraits that give us different perspectives on who people are and what represents their identities and personalities. Seated Woman is an oil painting on composition board, which is a harder surface than the kind of canvas that's most commonly used with oil paints. It's 28 1/8 inches by 19 3/4 inches, so it's a more vertical composition. It was given to the museum by the Fanny, Bryce, Lehmer Endowment in 1975. Imagine that you're facing a woman who's sitting in a chair, and you're about 2 to 3 feet above her. That's a rough description of how Alexej von Jawlensky framed this composition. I'll start my description from the top and work my way down. The woman takes up the entire length of the painting. The top of her head is cut off by the top edge of the board. The background behind her head is mostly made up of short, yellowish-green brushstrokes with a big spot of blue poking out from the yellow over the woman's left shoulder and another thin spot running along the right side of the painting behind her left arm. It seems to me like the green appears because he painted the background blue first, then added the yellow. She appears to be either wearing a wide black hat or have dark hair that is tied back in a bun. Her face seems to be yellow at its base, with quick strokes of white to fill out the skin tone and pink and orange for accents and shadows. There are even some faint traces of blue in places. But thick black lines create an edge for her face, eyebrows, eyes, and nose. All of the other colors, the white, pink, and orange, are all roughly filled in around the black lines of her face. The eyebrow on the left is its own black line, while the eyebrow on the right is part of an S-shaped line that goes from the edge of her face to the middle to create her nose, which is mostly made up of a patch of pale orange. Her eyes are wide almond shapes with thick vertical black rectangles for pupils and little spots of green surrounding the pupils. It appears as though the woman is looking straight at the viewer, but her right eye, your left, is bigger and more central than her left eye, which is smaller and angling back and to the right. Her right cheek has a mark in the shape of an orange circle, vertically aligned below the eye on the left and hangs just at the edge of her nose. It looks like rouge to me. There's a longer splotch of orange along the other cheek that runs parallel with the black contour line, and it looks more like a shadow. Her lips are made up of 2 loose brushstrokes of red paint with a thick black line in between. Her chin and lower cheeks have more visible squiggly strokes of pink and a faint stroke of blue. She's sitting in a chair that appears to be made out of wood, painted in a thick reddish-brown band with green upholstery captured in a light green band hovering around larger strokes of dark green paint. Like the figure, there is a thick black outline around the chair. She appears to be wearing a dark green coat with a fur collar featuring large spots of yellow and brown. Beneath the coat, she's wearing a red blouse with a thick light green collar that covers nearly her entire neck. In the collar, just like in the rest of the painting, there are a lot of quick, loose brushstrokes that create light and shadows. Compositionally, the top half of the woman creates a teardrop shape, the small and narrow point starting with her head and widening and enlarging all the way to her waist, rounded out by her belly and her hands resting in her lap, the back of her left hand on top of the inside of her right hand. It creates the impression that she's sitting back or moving further away from us. At the top of her blouse are 3 dark buttons that are loosely in the center, but are leaning diagonally toward the right side of the painting. This gives the impression that you're not looking straight ahead at the woman, but rather a little to her right, as her body shifts to her left. In the middle of her chest are 4 yellow flowers, loosely clustered in a diamond shape. The top, left, and bottom flowers seem to be facing up, while the one on the right is leaning toward her left, your right. The sleeves of her blouse look to be 3/4 length, poking out from under her coat and exposing a bit of her yellow forearms and hands, all contained by thick black contour lines. She's wearing dark-colored pants or a skirt, but there's not much detail of her from the waist down. Her left arm appears bigger and longer because it's in the foreground of the painting. As a result, only part of her right hand is there at the bottom. Her right arm is foreshortened, which means that it takes up less space and looks smaller or cut down in size as a way of showing that it's further away from our view. Alexej's sense of color is what he's typically known for, and I tried my best today to capture that in my description. But the perspective he used to paint people like this woman, who is the artist's mother, is unique too. Instead of framing the woman at our level, our perspective is slightly up above. It reminds me of the angle that we use to take selfies with our cameras or our phones. It can feel dynamic and unusual, but I can also see how it might feel intimidating or dominating, as if the artist or the viewer is peering down on the woman. Based on what I've described, how does your perspective on this painting resonate with you today?